Two buyers walk into the same Maranello showroom. One leaves with keys, the other leaves with nothing, not because they couldn't cover the price, but because the brand decided they hadn't earned the right to buy it yet. Same prancing horse on the wall, same factory address, completely different realities. Ferrari doesn't sell cars the way other manufacturers sell cars. It rations them. It evaluates buyers. It structures its lineup as a controlled escalation ladder, where the top tier is never available to anyone who hasn't already cleared the lower rungs. Here's how the system actually works. Level 1. The Gateway Grand Tourer. This is where Ferrari expands its customer base, and it is engineered specifically to be approachable. The Roma and Roma Spider are built on a front mid-engine layout, the V8 sitting behind the front axle, not behind the driver. That single positioning decision shifts the entire character of the car. The weight distribution is more neutral. The cabin is more accessible. The suspension is tuned for daily roads, not lap times. Ferrari made a deliberate choice to build a Grand Tourer rather than a track instrument at this tier. Factory baseline for the Roma sits around $250,000. The twin-turbo 3.9-liter V8 produces 612 horsepower. The 8-speed dual-clutch transmission is shared with more aggressive variants but calibrated here for smooth, relaxed progress rather than launch aggression. The Spider adds a retractable hardtop and a small weight penalty for roughly $30,000 more. At this level, the car stops being a performance instrument. It becomes a controlled introduction to an ecosystem. Level 2. The high-margin utility. Ferrari spent decades insisting it would never build an SUV. Then it watched competitors print money in the segment and reconsidered. The Purosangue arrived in 2022 as the brand's first four-door, four-seat vehicle. The engineering team's primary challenge wasn't packaging the cabin. It was protecting the brand's performance reputation in a body style associated with compromised dynamics. The solution? A naturally aspirated 6.5-liter V, 12-mounted low and forward, active suspension with 48-volt anti-roll control, and rear-biased torque distribution. The result drives nothing like an SUV. Whether it should exist is a separate argument. Factory pricing tracks between $400,000 and $500,000 depending on specification. The long-term brand owner, who needs genuine rear seat space for family use, but refuses to park a German SUV in their driveway, books the Purosangue. The multi-car collector adds it as a functional complement to a mid-engine stable. The buyer who expected a pure sports car driving experience is consistently surprised by how accurately Ferrari delivered on that promise. Level 3. The digital hybrid transformation. The 296 GTB and 296 GTS dropped the V8 and introduced a twin-turbo 3.0-liter V6 paired with an electric motor mounted on the rear axle. The combustion engine alone produces 654 horsepower. Combined system output, 818 horsepower. The electric motor's instant torque delivery fills the low rev range where a small displacement turbocharged engine normally struggles. The result is a power curve with no gaps. Not a compromise, a recalibration. Factory pricing starts around $340,000. The GTS adds a retractable roof for roughly $30,000 more. The 296 GT3 racing variant, stripped of the hybrid, system for competition weight regulations, has already won major championships on its debut season, which retroactively validated the platform's fundamental engineering. At this level, the product stops being about engine displacement as identity. It becomes about lap time as the only honest metric. The number of cylinders is irrelevant to the stopwatch. Level 4. The last pure 12-cylinder. This vehicle exists because global emissions legislation is coming for the V12 engine, and Ferrari knows it. The 12-cylindry carries a naturally aspirated 6.5-liter V12 with no hybrid assistance, no electric motor, no battery pack, just 12 cylinders, 2 overhead camshafts per bank, and an engine that revs to 9,500 revolutions per minute with a mechanical soundtrack that cannot be replicated by any forced induction or electrified alternative. Ferrari produced this car because the market demanded a final, uncorrupted expression of the format, before regulatory pressure makes it impossible to sell in major markets. Entry pricing sits around $430,000 for the coupe, 819 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. The 12-cylindry Spider adds a convertible roof and commands a premium. Both variants are already allocated beyond their initial production run. The buyers found the cars before the marketing department needed to explain them. Strategic collectors who track global emissions calendars and understand that the V12's regulatory lifespan is measured in years, not decades, are the primary buyers. They aren't purchasing superior lap performance over the hybrid tier. Level 5. The Controlled Allocation Prototype. The SF90 Stradale is the brand's first road car to carry a power unit architecture derived directly from its Formula One hybrid program. A twin-turbo 4.0-liter V8 combined with 3 electric motors, 2 on the front axle, 1 between the engine and gearbox, delivers 986 horsepower through an all-wheel drive system that Ferrari's road car division had never previously produced. Factory pricing for the SF90 Stradale starts at $510,000. The track-focused SF90XX variant approaches $900,000 and requires a separate invitation process. It is not available at the standard allocation tier. The XX buyer submits a formal application demonstrating existing vehicle ownership history and confirmed track utilization. Ferrari's client relations team reviews the file. The multi-car collector who has already purchased at levels 1 through 4 earns access to an SF90 invitation through accumulated loyalty. First-time buyers with sufficient capital are routinely declined. The buyer who has purchased 17 Ferraris over 2 decades gets a call. The hedge fund manager with no purchase history gets a waiting list that leads nowhere. At this level, money stops being the primary currency. Demonstrated commitment to the brand is Ferrari is not selling a car. It is granting membership to a tier that most buyers will never access, regardless of what they offer. Level 6. The hypercar asset class. The LaFerrari, the Monza SP1 and SP2, the Daytona SP3. These are not offered through standard retail channels. Invitations go to a curated list of clients whose purchase histories, geographic distribution, and collection profiles are actively managed by Ferrari's Special Projects division. The LaFerrari Aperta, the open-top variant, had 200 units allocated before the car was publicly announced. The buyers were identified before the specification was finalized. Launch pricing for recent Icona series models starts above $1.5 million and reaches $2.3 million depending on variant. Secondary market valuations for the LaFerrari have tracked between $4 million and $8 million at major auction houses. The Monza SP1 sold at factory for under $2 million and now trades above $3.5 million. The vehicle stops operating as machinery here. It becomes a financial instrument with a prancing horse badge. Ferrari built a racing team in 1947 with no money, and a founder whose primary skill was inspiring engineers to solve problems they weren't being paid enough to solve. 70 years later, the company generates over $6 billion in annual revenue with the lowest production volume of any major automotive brand. The entry car exists to pull new buyers into the ecosystem. The hypercar exists to confirm which buyers have earned access to the top. Every level in between is a structured audition. If this was useful, subscribe. I break down how things actually work, not how the brochure describes them. See you in the next one.